Welcome to This Guy Edits.
Ah, good God, I'm back.
With that guy, who also edits.
You just edit me into your show?
Yeah. In this episode, we're going to start at the beginning. When film was first invented, there were no rules, no conventions, and editing as the syntax of the film language had to be discovered. The reason why we're talking about this, what has happened in the past is repeating itself right now, where film language is being reinvented. I mean, it's constantly happening, but it's happening to an extreme, and it's going to continue to happen with new media, VR, all that stuff. And it's going to change the way that we tell stories. So it is important to look at the past and see how that process happened. It took some people, they had the opportunity to do a lot of work to be able to discover new things and innovate upon them. Before we get to today's topic, I want to let you know that this video is brought to you by rocketstock.com, an exclusive source of video assets for editing and motion graphics. Alright, good. Let's start with continuity editing.
It took people a really long time to start editing, period. And that's what's really fascinating about it to me, is that the movie camera was invented in the year 1890. William Dixon invented the movie camera, Thomas Edison got credit for it. But those are the earliest images you saw. They played in these things called kinetoscopes, and you have them filming variety acts from around the country, famous people, Annie Oakley shooting stuff, Wild Bill doing little acts. Oddly, an early thing that was filmed is exactly what people started filming on YouTube. So all this innovation, all this technology has happened since those early days. And what do people film?
I was gonna say it's cats first and then porn.
But that's 1890, and we have some pretty brilliant people doing this stuff. You have the Lumiere brothers, who invented the first projected cameras, and then you have Georges Méliès, the French magician, master of the stage, taking his own head off, trip to the moon, all that stuff. None of that involved editing. Editing, it's not just cutting the film, because Georges Méliès cut the film. He would cut it to do the special effects and stuff. But it was all filmed in what you call the tableau style.
Yes. You turn the camera on, it's pointing in one direction, and it's covering one scene, and when the scene is over, you turn the camera off.
And then you go to the next location. And that's the entire scene, and everything's a master shot. Everything's head to toe. You're seeing the entire scene play out. That's how Georges Méliès, who did amazing stuff like this, would make his films, and there was no understanding that you could actually create the story through the editing. And that's what editing is. People overlook that. They think it's, oh, well, you get someone to cut it together. It's not a cutting thing, it's creating story. When Life of American Firemen came out, people were like, hey, yeah, we finally had editing. I mean, that movie's boring. I'm sorry to say it, but it's only important because of the innovation. What they actually did was the first linear assembly of a film. So they had this nonfiction footage of a fire rescue taking place, and they were like, what if we shot some fake stuff to go with it? And then took those different pieces and put it together to create the first linear assembly of a story. And it was that simple. And it kind of had the idea of cross-cutting, where we're seeing different perspectives on the same scene.
The action would be heavily repeated.
We see the entire fire rescue from beginning to end inside, and then we go outside and we see the entire fire rescue from beginning to end. There's tons of dead space and all that stuff. But just that leap alone to do that, even with all the amazing things that were being done, that was 1903 that movie was made. So that's 13 years.
Okay.
And there's no technical reason they couldn't do it. Thinking about those leaps of innovation, why did it take so long when all the technology was right there? Everything you needed to edit a movie was there, and no one did. And we have the most innovative people in the world doing it. People that are tearing their own heads off, killing the devil with a chair, going to the moon, all this great stuff, and yet don't make that leap that you can assemble the story. Things like editing a movie, things like a close-up coming like this in the middle of a shot, that was so unthinkable to them, right? That was so, where in the world are you going to experience anything like that? That very same year, in 1903 as well, The Great Train Robbery comes out. When you look at The Great Train Robbery, it's far more sophisticated. And it was very successful, very impactful, led to distribution houses specifically for movies being made, so Nickelodeon's appeared. The Great Train Robbery comes out, and not only is it, a more exciting movie, it's about a robbery, real life events that are happening at that time. It'd be like us doing the story of El Chapo. What it has is parallel action, so we're seeing the story develop in two different places. We have action that's being compressed so that we're not really having to see everything play out. We're seeing, hey, the cavalry's coming. Oh crap, and then we see them on the horses riding into the frame. They're completely out of the frame when the shot starts, but still, we're not seeing them suit up and load their guns. We're cutting to the tenets of drama are kind of being used in film, in film editing. So that's much more sophisticated in terms of that. Still not the most exciting movie you're ever going to see. And then 1908, I like to show a clip from this movie called Rescued from an Eagle's Nest, which is completely unimportant in the history of film. But look at any movie from 1908, any movie that Porter made or was involved with or Edison made around that time, nothing has changed in terms of the editing. All that's changed is the action is a little bit tighter. I can handle showing it to a group of students and not having to fast forward through it, right? Even Trip to the Moon, I can't do that. You realize, well, hold on, 1908, that's 18 years after the movie camera was invented. That's insane. Griffith was in Rescued from an Eagle's Nest. He was an actor, and then he quit acting to go work for Dixon's company, American Biograph, as a director. And this is very important. What makes that leap, right? What was the innovation? Was it technology? Was the audience? What was it? It's someone doing it a ton. And that's always the case with anyone that's great at anything. Yeah. And Griffith made 450 short films in the years he worked for American Biograph. So you think about that and you start to realize, oh, that's how you get great at it, right? No one just threw Michael Phelps with his long ass arms into a pool, his first Olympics, and he went and won a gold medal. He swam more than anybody, and also has freakish arms, right? Mozart played 10,000 hours of music before he turned 12. That's why he created those great symphonies. It wasn't just hey, here's a piano. And I think that's very misleading, especially to filmmakers. This idea that, people just have a natural innate talent. Yep. It can help you if you have those long-ass Phelps arms and tiny-ass legs, but it's much better to do it a ton. And anyone you admire, anyone you respect, anyone who's been great at anything, I promise, if you look, they're going to have done it a lot to get to that point. And in this case, the work Griffith's doing, there's no pool lanes, there's no floaties, there's nothing telling him go this direction, which is the other cool thing about filmmaking is this stuff, again, it's only been around since 1890. Editing's only been around since 1903. Think of what's possible, especially with what's available now. So who knows what the future holds, because it's completely undefined. It's as unimaginable to us as it was to someone watching a train drive at them, or someone who's okay, we can make a movie that takes place on the moon, and yet I'm not going to think about editing it, right? It just doesn't, stuff just doesn't exist, so we can't see it. And then Griffith making all those movies, he gets credit from himself, right? For inventing match cutting, for inventing coverage, various camera angles, stuff like that. Which is funny though, because if you look at the Great Train Robbery, there's a medium shot at the end of it, but it's after the movie completes and you have the character firing into the camera. So again, that's just proof there wasn't some technological holdback from getting a closer shot on someone. But Griffith was the first one, according to him, to start implementing those into the footage. And everyone thinks because he invented those things, he just did it overnight. The truth of the matter is you can look at these films, like this one, The Musketeers of Pig Alley, and you can see how we see a character almost as a novelty, the same way they had the Great Train Robbery spooking you out. We have this character approaching the lens, and it's not really cutting to a close-up. It's kind of discovering, wait a second, this looks pretty dynamic, this close-up of this guy, and you see this menacing gangster face staring at you. And you can see how someone just does that on a lark, right? And then maybe realizes, wait, why aren't we doing this always? Why isn't this every single shot of every movie? If a movie was in all close-ups, like this one, the movie would be more interesting. And that's the other thing to think about too. Movies weren't really interested in emotion when they started. It kind of took until this stuff, till it could become about something more, where you're interacting with the human face and stuff. We start realizing the emotional importance of movies and the weight that can have through this. And then look how he's using coverage here in Burglar's Dilemma. So look at this, how we have this character. We're not using traditional coverage. You can almost see with a shot like this, we're trying to track this guy who is responsible for the murder that this kid's being held accountable for by this good cop, bad cop routine. And now we lose sight of the guy. So how are we going to see him? It almost seems like they got this shot of the guy stewing around after the fact. They could have been in editing and seen it and been like, we kind of lost the main character here. what if we go back and shoot him again? Because it's the same set we use in every single other one of your shorts. Or on the set realizing, oh, we keep losing him. Like, I got a really risky idea, guys. This might sound crazy, but what if we get another camera angle of what's happening in this scene? Someone's like, wait a second, that's going to be like tearing your goddamn eyeballs out and putting them on the other side of the room. That's not real. That doesn't reflect evolution. You can't do that. But you try it and you realize how absolutely seamless it is. I can't imagine anyone saw that in the theater for the first time, even though we grow up used to it and we're like, huh? What the hell is going on? But that's the thing with the grammar of film editing that we're talking about, is how just because of the way that human beings process imagery, it doesn't matter if it's someone you pulled out of a cave that's never seen a movie before, it doesn't matter if it's someone who grew up watching MTV videos that's used to it. There's a way that we process information that's inescapable for now. I mean, who the hell knows in 10 years? But because of the way we process information and signals and cues as human beings, if you understand what that is in your film editing, then you can be much more effective by breaking it with discontinuity editing.
Right. Well, the biology behind it, if we're getting that far, is basically in real life, when you're watching something and you're looking at one thing and then something moves, you're looking over and you're looking at another thing. What you're seeing from going from here to there, your brain cuts out. You're just putting these two images together in your brain because everything in between is not important. It's not important for survival. It's not important for reward. Like, oh, there's something I can eat. I should go catch it.
Right.
So that's a very natural process happening in your brain, and editing happens to simulate that same effect. So it's very natural for a brain to not be thrown out of the film when you suddenly cut from a wide shot to a close-up, because it's exactly what the brain is doing anyway.
Yeah.
Subscribe and catch part 2 when Tyler explains the Russian montage editing and I not knowingly. We want to thank Rocketstock.com for letting us use their 4K video overlays and audio transitions. Give Rocketstock a visit by clicking on the link in the video description below. Thanks so much for watching.